I am one of 3 fellow managers we have at HIAS, and we are not in the business of selecting the fellows. I will tell you who has the wonderful task to do that, but we are communicating with the fellows in preparation for their stay. So usually there's at least a year of back and forth, mostly via email or by Zoom, where we try to prepare the fellows' day as best as possible and to really make sure that we find a good tailor-made solution for everyone, because everyone's situation is different. But more in detail, so as Dorothea said, we publicize our fellowships via an open call. We do that on the HIAS website. We are also on social media, namely on Twitter and on LinkedIn. And we also have this print material here that you're very welcome to take with you today if you're here in person. And as Dorothea already said, we also use the channels of the DAAD network and those of the Global Young Academy. So, as also already mentioned, the fellowships at HIAS are usually between 3 and 10 months long. The most common lengths are 3, 6, and 10 months. Actually, 10 months is what most people apply for. But to be frank, anything in between is possible as well. If someone can only stay for 5 months, but would like to stay more than 4 months, then 5 months that is. Our application process, or the applications themselves, are relatively lean. The selection committee is looking for the previous individual academic or artistic performance. So they will look at the CV and at the publication record and see, how that particular applicant's performance is up with regard to their career stage. Obviously, that means something different for a very well-established older scholar or scientist, or for an alum, for an emeritus or an emerita, or for an early career researcher. So obviously, an early career researcher applicant will not be measured with the same criteria with which a far more seasoned and experienced and older colleague will be assessed, but their unique position will be taken into account and seen compared to other early career researchers within that field, because as you know, disciplines are also quite different in how they, for example, assess publications and the amount of publications, or the amount in which one is connected internationally are quite different. Then what's also of great importance is the quality of the submitted project proposal. Every applicant is asked to add a sketch, a proposal of the project with which he or she is planning on coming to Hamburg and to work on during their time in Hamburg. This sketch is at the most 3 pages long and should really make clear that this is an innovative project within that person's field. It would be very good if it showed a disciplinary outlook or a transdisciplinary outlook. So someone who is not, who's curious, who's open to many other vantage points and viewpoints, and who is not adamant about sticking to, the defines maybe of their own discipline. What's also very important is the expectable contribution to the cohort, meaning the fellow group that is about to be assembled, as well as to the academic landscape in Hamburg. And with that, we mean that our selection committee really likes to see that an application has an actual interest in Hamburg as a site of science and of research behind it, that it's not maybe an application that you could submit just like that to 5 other institutes for advanced study, but that is keeping in mind what the specific scientific landscape in Hamburg looks like. It's always great if people already know, not personally, but have heard of or know of people who are working in their field, or maybe in another field, but in a field that is relevant and interesting to the project that they are planning on conducting. Very important, again, as I mentioned before, is an openness to interdisciplinarity. So it's important to see that the person really has a credible history in looking to the left and to the right, and to being interested in taking different vantage points. So as Dorothea already alluded to, our goal is to compose a group of fellows that is as diverse as possible. Diverse means in terms of disciplines, and that includes, as you heard, the visual arts and music. In terms of gender, which is not always that easy. We, especially in the beginning, did get a lot more applications from male scientists and scholars, and often the female applicants applied for considerably shorter amounts of time, which obviously is probably due to the way in which family obligations are still divided between the genders, and of what people feel comfortable doing, and how long they feel comfortable being away from home, especially if they have young families. Then diversity in terms of countries of origin. As Dorothea said, we are looking to all continents. We currently have fellows from 3 continents in our group at HIAS, and we'd like to expand this as much as possible. Most of our applications, and that goes for all the institutes for advanced study, are from Western nations, and often these are fellows or people who apply, who have been fellows already at different institutions, and we are really looking, as are many other institutes for advanced study, that's not unique to HIAS, we are really looking at and aiming at not recreating more of the same, meaning giving to people who already have a lot, but to really seek out excellent scholars who are maybe also working in an academic tradition, in an academic realm that has still other traditions when it comes to application, when it comes to publication, when it comes to how to do research. There are still a lot of differences, and it's really important to us to be as unbiased as possible, or to at least be aware of our bias, and to second guess it, and to really question it, and to make sure that an application that coming from Africa or from Latin America, that does look different in terms of structure and how you present yourself to that of someone from a liberal arts college or from an Ivy League university in the US or in Canada or in other places. A fourth important point when it comes to diversity is the career level. So obviously it's important to us to really have a broad range of people who are at all different stages of their career. And there again, we get a lot of applications from very established, settled scholars and scientists. That's not surprising because obviously if you're still in the rush hour of life and you have all kinds of duties, both professional and then personal in your family with little children, it is much more difficult to also carve out time to, first of all, apply for a fellowship like this, but then also to find space in your life to maybe come with all of your family, or make the decision to come on your own. So we're really trying to find tailor-made solutions, especially for early career researchers who are wishing to come with their families. So in essence, the right mixture is the key to serendipitous encounters. And with that, with serendipitous encounters, we mean what Dorothea alluded to before. These 2 weekly meetings at HIAS, the lunch on Tuesdays and the colloquium followed by dinner on Thursdays, are really important in order to bring these very diverse people together and to make sure that that there is space for for scientific talk, for scholarly talk, but also for chat that then often makes people realize, oh, you're working on something that, you know, sounds very medicine-y to me, but me as a theologian, I have that brings something to mind that is important to my research, and vice versa. The selection criteria that our selection committee, which is, well, I'll tell you about that in a second, is mainly looking at our significant monographs, articles in first authorship, publications or reviews in relevant either academic journals or art pages or art journals, depending on you know, whether it is scientists or artists. Prestigious prizes and awards, memberships in societies or academies such as yours, or for artists, exhibitions in renowned museums or art institutions, or concerts or performances at renowned stages. And something that is always, that the committee is always on the lookout for are traces or kind of hints of that person influencing or shaping public discourse. You know, people who are making this attempt of going out, just as HIAS is, to go out into society and to talk to people, especially in fields that are highly applicable to you know, all kinds of public life, be it medicine or lots of fields of sociology and also the humanities. The selection process is science-led. That means that the high quality of the research that person has been doing, is doing, and is planning on doing is at the center of or uppermost criterion. And the process is conducted by an international and interdisciplinary selection committee, according to transparent criteria, the criteria that I just introduced to you. This selection committee consists of 4 people. They are covering the natural sciences, the social sciences, and the humanities. And every application is peer-reviewed by 2 people. By 2 people whose own expertise is as close to the subject as possible, and that can be either members of HIAS's executive committee or of its advisory council. Now, if none of these persons' disciplines are close to an applicant's topic, we ask external experts, researchers, or artists to provide an application for us, and that is the case in about 50% of the applications that we have to draw back on people who are not in our 2 committees. So you might wonder what the benefits and the services of the fellowships are. First of all, we pay a stipend at the level of the career phase equivalent in Hamburg. So that means that, so actually it's either one of two schemes. In cases where fellows, once they are fellows, when their home institutions agree to letting them go on leave with their pay, so they continue to receive the usual salary while they're in Hamburg, HIAS pays for a teaching replacement for that fellow at their home institution. Now, obviously, that only makes sense in cases where that person has a teaching load or where the home institution agrees to that. In cases where that's not the case, where a home institution says, well, you're free to go, but you don't receive your usual salary from us, HIAS pays that fellow what they usually get, their usual salary, and in cases where that salary is below what the comparable career equivalent is in Hamburg, we pay the difference to that, so that at the end, that person ends up during their time in Hamburg with a salary that is on the level of someone at their career stage in Hamburg. All of our fellows are being accommodated at the guest house of Universität Hamburg, and that includes any accompanying family members. So we've had fellows who came with their spouse and with 2-3 children. The guest house of Universität Hamburg is just across the street, about 5 minutes walking distance. It's a very nice, green, safe neighborhood that's right next to a lot of the university's institutes and libraries, and so there's a lot of student life, but it's also located right in the center of the city, so you're not somewhere, in a monastery or in an ivory tower. HIAS reimburses the travel costs for the round trip, meaning for the way to Hamburg and back, again, including any family members that might accompany that fellow. We also pay for emergency health insurance, both for the fellow and any person they bring with them to stay with them. So that is also an important point, especially with kids. We provide a library service. That means that we have assistants working at HIAS who will get our fellows all the literature or other media that they require. Our fellows are also very invited and welcome to go to any of the libraries or archives at Universität Hamburg. Anything from scanning articles to procuring literature or other material will also be taken care of by our research assistants. And we assist fellows who come with children in finding schools or childcare facilities, especially childcare spaces can be quite difficult to find. So that's something that we help with, especially when it comes to knowing about certain areas. Is that a area that is close enough, or a nice area where you want your kids to go to school or to daycare. Now to expectations. We do have a few expectations, and Dorothea mentioned them pretty much already. We expect our fellows to be in Hamburg for most of the time, but particularly we ask them to attend the 2 weekly meetings, the lunches on Tuesdays, and the colloquium followed by a dinner that also takes place at HIAS on Thursdays. In between, they are free to go, and often people, go on little research trips, maybe to areas in the immediate vicinity, or there's a conference that you've signed up for a long time ago, or some interesting, important meeting for your field that happens to take place in Vienna or in Dublin while you're in Hamburg. So our fellows are obviously encouraged and welcome to do that, but if you chose something, for example, in your application that requires that you, out of your 6 months in Hamburg, you're being in Rome for 2 months to work in a special library there, that would be something we had to work around. That would be considered probably a downside, because it is really important to us to be able to create this community of fellows, and you can only really reliably do that if people are there most of the time, if they see that their fellow fellows are there most of the time, that there are the same rules for everyone. So that is something that is important to us. We also expect our fellows to forge new networks, both between themselves and so among each other with other fellows. That's what these lunches and the dinners are for. And also with partners of the different member institutions. And a very important sort of unique selling point of HIAS is that we give each of our fellows a cooperation partner, a so-called tandem partner, to their side. This tandem partner is a professor from one of our 9 member institutions. And we expect these tandem partners to introduce their fellow into their respective local community, because it is important to us that our fellows are not, while they're in Hamburg, working all by, silently by themselves, not knowing who in their field or in adjacent field is doing interesting work in Hamburg. And we want them to get the chance to really quickly get to know as many people as possible, hear about opportunities and about events and all kinds of things that are stimulating to them and that can really advance them in their goals and in their networking. We also expect or very much appreciate new interdisciplinary results. As Dorothea mentioned, we really want to see our fellows, we want to see sparks fly between our fellows. We want to see that they are, that they are curious about one another, that they are listening to one another, engaging with one another, with the goal of hopefully identifying common interests, and then pushing those or bring those onto the next level by maybe writing a joint funding proposal, or maybe even creating a new joint study program between their respective home institutions. Whatever it might be, we very much hope for these things to happen at HIAS. And we hope, of course, that both while our fellows are still in Hamburg, and especially once they're then leaving Hamburg again, going back to their home institutions or onto other new exciting jobs, to raise the visibility of HIAS in the whole world, and also within the city while they're there. So with a lot of events, and as Dorothea mentioned, a lot of our fellows realize pretty quickly, after they've spent a few weeks in Hamburg, that there are a lot of opportunities for them to connect, to give talks, to give lectures, to put on conferences that bring other colleagues of theirs that they normally don't see, and that they get the opportunity to work with in Hamburg together, and to invite them to HIAS and to show them what both HIAS and Hamburg can offer to their colleagues and to science and the arts in general. Yeah, so the weekly Life at HIAS, you've heard it before. We have the fellow lunches and the colloquium and joint dinner. What happens at the colloquium on Thursdays is that each week a fellow is presenting their work. It can be their project that they're working on at HIAS. It can be something maybe that sparked their interest or new thoughts while they were there. We've had people presenting with another fellow because they've developed an idea. We always also invite the tandem partners, and often, or now on this coming Thursday, as Dorothea mentioned, one of our fellows, a philosopher, is inviting his tandem partner who's a cultural anthropologist, and they will present their joint work. So that is always exciting, because that's when you also get an idea as to what this interdisciplinarity and transdisciplinarity really means in action. Because we also want to show our fellows where they ended up, where they are in Hamburg, because Hamburg is such a vibrant and diverse city. We offer a cultural program with talks and excursions and visits to concerts, for example, at the Elbphilharmonie, or to museums. And that, again, is a very nice possibility of bringing people together, of realizing that you have joint interests, or just, hobbies, whatever. We also give our fellows a considerable budget for the organizing and the conducting of workshops and other events that they might want to do while they're in Hamburg. So everyone gets 450 euros per month that they're there. So in some cases up to 4,500 euros. And a lot of our fellows use that budget to invite colleagues and to then conduct a workshop, a 1 or 2 day long workshop, where they work in a really focused and intense way with people whom they might have met at a conference there 2 years ago, and then there's someone I know who's working on a really interesting thing that I've only read about, but I have never met personally. They invite these people to Hamburg, to HIAS, to work on something. And those are the kinds of things that we really see yielding a lot of lasting impact, because the sustainability of these connections that are made at HIAS is really important to us, that it's not just dissipating into thin air again once people have left Hamburg and HIAS and are back at their home institutions. Yes, that's it for my part. If there are more questions, I'd be very happy to answer them.
Thank you. And indeed, we have time for questions.
Very good.
Myself, quite a few, but give the floor to the audience first, if you have anything to want to know. Because anyhow, thanks for making the Institute truly appealing. Yeah, I think. I see. Everyone wants me to start. Okay. Yes. Maybe first question about this research project proposal. You said that you expect it to be up to 3 pages, but can you be maybe more specific? Why do you expect more, this kind of book writing project that I want to finish something that I've been working on for years and now I finally need time to, write it down? Or you would also rather maybe expect some new explorative projects that might not have yet any, tangible outcome during the stay, that I just want to, find something new and etc. Maybe you can give some examples of maybe some projects or whatever. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, very good question. I would say ideal is a mix of these things and some things in between. So we do have, every year we have fellows who say, oh, I really need some time to work really focused on just finishing this monograph, or on finishing this proposal. Often they come already with a follow-up idea. That is something that we like to see, that it's not just, because if we can pretty much see from that proposal that the person is likely not to be seen much, but kind of working in their office in order to make the most out of the 3 months that are there, that's great. That's totally, that's perfectly all right. But we'd like to see that they have an idea of how to, of what's next. And then we do have a lot of fellows who come with a broader idea, with something that is more open-ended. And then there are differing views from the external experts who write the evaluations, whether how important it is if something can be finalized or finished while in Hamburg, or if they say, oh, well, really, this seems like a huge project. I cannot see how this person can really tackle this in 10 months even. But if the selection committee is convinced of the idea and or very impressed by the can-do spirit and attitude of that person, that might not be a deterring factor. So it also really depends on, I mentioned, the importance of diversity. And if we have 2 people like that and 3 people like that, and then someone who has already, if it's an artist who has already realized a specific idea in one city, but now has an idea of how to Hamburgize this idea, for example, that is really exciting, and that is yet something different. It means that you're kind of you're reworking something that's already finished. So it really is the overall tableau of all kinds of different projects.
Then you emphasize that at least during the selection, you try to fit projects together in a way that they create some kind of I don't know, dialogue. But from the applicant's point of view, of course, you don't know what are the other projects. So actually, this is something that you cannot decide beforehand.
I would say it's not so much the projects, okay, because that is something, frankly, that not even our selection committee really is able to do. We cannot look into these applicants' heads, and we of course read their outline. Or they read their outline. They read their publication record. They get a good idea as to what it is probably going to be about. But as Dorothea said, the bottom up approach is really important, and it's important to us to bring these fellows together, to give them the space and a very nice atmosphere that is conducive to developing ideas and to discovering connections. And then it is their job to do that, and they always do that fantastically. They don't need us, and they don't need our selection committee to kind of match projects with one another.
So we have a couple of questions from the distant participants. I wonder whether we can show them on the screen as well. So the first is, are the application reviewing criteria given all equal weight, or some of them are more important?
I would say most important is, as I said, what's often referred to as excellence. Now that's difficult to define and a tricky matter, but it is a certain scientific or artistic level of excellency.
Excellence of the person, of the project, or both? Or
I would say it's a mix of past performance.
Okay.
What has this person done in the past? What is most likely if this person is to continue in that same fashion? What can be expected of that person? And then I would say with the project proposal, it is originality, it is interdisciplinarity, maybe even transdisciplinarity, and a certain openness. Someone who demonstrates that they are really that they welcome other views and questions. That might even, make them have to change the direction of their project. But that it is something that they are welcoming rather than rejecting, and that they're seeking out this atmosphere. Because otherwise, if you just want to be left alone, you can just stay at home. You don't have to come to HIAS. But so I would say that is those are the most important criteria for the selection committee.
Dorothea?
Sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This question is a very important one, and I would say in a certain way decisive one. And we are still in a process, and not only HIAS. especially as far as early career researchers are concerned. It's not so difficult if you look at a well-reputed professor and you have a look at the publication list, and as you mentioned, you can expect he will write certain article, that's fine, you know. But it's much more difficult to identify criteria and to distinguish if you have people where you have to have a focus on the potential. And this is a huge discussion between the different institutes for advanced study. As I mentioned, there are certain networks now, and especially, I not only want to make, let's say, marketing for HIAS, but if you think about to go to another country, have a look at NetHIAS. As I said, NETIAS. This is a network of European institutes for advanced study. And in most of the countries you can find them. And it's quite a tough peer review. It's not easy to get a membership. When we applied last year, 5 institutes applied and only we were allowed to join in. So there's really a good reputation, and some of them are in your neighborhood. As I mentioned, in Sweden is a very good one. Aarhus is a very good one. And we try to extend cooperation with them. And one of the big issues is how identify potential. You as a professor, you have to do this every day. Yeah? How to identify the potential of early careers. So this is something in process, and the question is really very important.
Good. The second question, I think, is quite easy one. Yeah. Is the membership in the National Academy of Science, e.g. Estonian Academy of Science, mandatory to be eligible for submitting an application?
Not at all, no.
Yeah, I think this is otherwise, yeah, the world
would be a very small pool.
I wanted maybe point out another important specifics of HIAS, namely that you want to pair the fellows with the Hamburg scholars. I wonder, is it the duty of the applicant to find a partner before submitting, or is it you that actually provide suggestions who would be the most suitable partners?
Either or.
Okay.
A lot of the applicants, but by far not all of them, name someone, and that doesn't need to be someone that they know in person or have worked with in the past. In fact, it often is someone with I always was kind of observing from the sideline what this person is doing. I think it's really interesting. I would love to work with this person. And a lot of applicants don't know. They might have an idea, or they say, actually, I don't really know who's working in my field in Hamburg. And in these cases, we know the landscape quite well. We do some research, we ask around. Sometimes we have an idea right away. Sometimes we have to dig a little bit. And then we ask the person that we think could be interested if they would be open to it. We've never heard no, and then we suggest this person to the applicant.
So you don't have to have agreement beforehand.
No.
This makes the applicant's life easier.
And you are, of course, not restricted to have only one partner. Okay. You are encouraged to work and cooperate with as many people as you see fit and as you find interesting. And again, they don't have to be from your own field. Some of the most interesting and fruitful collaborations arise out of people who are working in very different areas. So, yeah, pretty much anything is possible. And since it can be anybody from our 9 member institutions, the pool really is really big.
Maybe just a small thing. I guess you don't require some knowledge of German in order to apply.
No.
In order to survive in Hamburg, you can do it in English only.
Yes, exactly. So when it comes to HIAS, the lingua franca at HIAS is English, and in Hamburg as well, you can get by with English alone. Yeah.
Last chance to ask something? Yeah.
So I'd like to ask you about the timeline. How does that work exactly? And part of the reason why I ask about it is because I have a child who is at home and next year transitioning from kindergarten to the school. So that can be important to know also this in mind.
Very important, yes. We just finished the selection for the academic year 2024-25 and sent out those applications. And so soon we are going to publish the call for 25-26 on our website. The application deadline will be sometime in the spring of next year, so in the spring of 24, so that by the time you receive your your invitation, in which will be about in the fall of 2004, you have another year to prepare. And because our academic year starts in September of a year and ends at the end of June of the following year. So there is no fellow life at HIAS in July and in August, but from September to June, it's buzzing.
Maybe yet another more small question about the length of the stay. You said it's between 3 and 10 months, and I understood you kind of prefer longer stays. I mean, does the length of the stay plays a role in evaluation? Not at all.
No, not at all. That's completely open. Also, if someone already knows of a potential tandem partner or not, does not play a role. It's just, so from my experience, from our experience, it is of course beneficial to give yourself as much time as possible, but sometimes that's just not feasible, and that's all right. We don't want to disadvantage anyone who, for whatever reasons, can only afford to come for 3 months. Less than 3 months, we realized, is tricky. You barely have arrived and kind of acclimatized, and then you have to leave again.
Yeah, makes sense. So thank you so much. Thank you. And give applause.